Hi, everybody. It's just a little after 7 o'clock, so let's give everyone a couple minutes as people start filing in. How's everyone doing out there today? Check-in time. How you all doing? It's Tuesday. It's 900 million degrees outside. My brain feels like it's melting inside my skull. Yeah, I'm trying to switch up the jams a little bit on the front screen. Um, I don't know. If you like it, let me know. If you hate it, too bad. No, yeah, I just got these glasses in the other day. They're my reading glasses because my other glasses have that weird transitional lens thing with the bifocals built into the glass, and they make me so dizzy I can't use them. I mean, I can. They make me dizzy. These are at least I can read. Um, yeah, so I apologize, folks. I guess we could have had class outside today, but it is like 93 degrees here in Harlem or something ridiculous. I know I wouldn't be able to really do class in that weather. Uh, oh, thank you for the comments, the compliments, and the glasses. Zenny Optical got these glasses for like 30 bucks. It's a godsend. um, it's just too hot to have class outside, especially doing physical activity with masks on, etc., etc. I think Friday it's supposed to rain, but if it's not, um, we will try for outdoor class on Friday. So what I will do is I will try to have something prepared for folks in case the class can't happen. I'll do class live. If we can't meet in person on Friday, we will do uh, a class, like a Zoom class session as usual. And if we can, what I'll do is for folks who can't make the class tomorrow, because it's supposed to rain all day, I can record a class ahead of time um, and release that during that hour, so you have something to practice with. Um, and I will also record class itself on Friday if we do have it outside, and then later I'll broadcast that. So either way, so yeah, so the way I kind of want to work it, like I just described, if there is class in person, I'll have something to run for folks during that time slot, so you at least have something to practice along with. It might be a little bit more exercise, HEMA exercise video, uh, but uh, um, I will always record. I'm going to start recording classes, and then um, we'll make that available. We'll also try to live stream stuff too, but that depending on location, it could be a service issue. Yeah, I mean, with the weather right now, it was supposed to rain an hour ago apparently, but it didn't. I don't know. I don't trust the weather service anymore. So trying to think. Uh, I also apologize. My internet has been awful today. The heat, I think, is just my laptop is old and overheats on the best of days. So I apologize ahead of time if I cut out. If I do, I promise I'll be back. Let's see. In terms of this week, on Friday, either on Friday for class, we're gonna last couple of weeks we've been doing the first couple cuts of the mind vecting, so we're gonna continue the mind vecting. We're gonna review cuts 1 and 2, and then we're gonna practice cut 3. And also we are going to, and as folks saw, I posted a list of fencing practice. I call them the combinations. It's kind of actions you can practice, responses you can practice. Let's see, and then the other week in the AMA, we talked a little bit about time and distance in KDF, and some folks had some other follow-up questions about that, and kind of The biggest one, or the most common one, being what am I kind of basing my what is my general approach to time and distance? So I dug up my old friend George Silver. Just kidding, it's in the back of my binder for everything. Um, and so what I was hoping to do today is kind of go. I'm going to read from Brief Instructions upon my Paradoxes of Defense. Mr. George Silver, fencing master and leader of Italians. Um, um, so yeah, we'll give people just another minute or so. I think it's hot out. I think people aren't thinking HEMA, so it's okay. So I just want to go over a couple of, probably read and then we can talk about the first few of these chapters and then I'll take questions. And also, I wanted to talk a little bit before we dive into the actual learning material stuff. Oh, okay. Sorry. My microphone thing needs some recharging, so it was not able to do that today. Promise it'll be back. Okay. So yeah. Yeah. So the other thing before I really got is this better for audio? Audio check. Okay, cool. I'll also try to talk louder. Anyway, before I really start diving into the materials, and I'll repeat this again later if more people join. There's been a lot of the HEMA internet is a lot of stuff happening on there today. There is a situation going on with some of the with one of the Canadian schools in which, and I'm not going to get into great details, but there's a lot of troubling kind of news coming in from from one of the clubs or a couple of the clubs regarding certain people, and I'm not going to touch on that in itself, but I want to touch on the greater concept of accountability. It's a part of my job to make sure that everyone feels safe and comfortable, because what we are doing, as I've talked about before, is a level of consensual violence that there has to be a lot of trust. There has to be a lot of understanding, trust, and respect in an environment. And it was really upsetting to hear that that there's some stuff happening in Club. Two people that I know those conditions don't exist, and I want everyone to feel. I guess it's all. So a couple things about that. I want everyone to feel comfortable talking, being able to talk to me about issues they might have. And a lot of people, and when people in the past, people have generally felt comfortable coming to me about things. It can be big or small. I'm always here to listen to what you have to say and help in any way that I can, in every way that I can. And I know that's also not easy. So I also want to encourage folks to. I don't want to. I want to encourage folks to be able to talk to each other, or if you don't feel like you can talk directly to me about something. I know some folks. There's a couple other ways to get in touch with myself and other people that are also kind of helping guide the ship. Part of that is if you email info@longestmesser.com. That is an email which many people if the Messer group have access to. Many people in that group will have access to that soon. And so that's something that's going to be that'll be a venue. We're going to publish finally an online submission form that you can anonymously send messages to us about. for accountability. So in case you need to report something, but you don't want to make yourself, but there's a level of like anonymity, and that will be available soon. And also, yeah. So, like, if you're ever having a problem with another student, uh, or frankly with me, please come talk to me. And I know there's other folks that'll be more than happy to help interface with that. But also, if there's a problem ever with me, and you don't feel comfortable coming to talk to me, I want to make sure that there's a way to be held accountable for those things. So we're going to be working. It's going to be added to the kind of new handbook that we're working on. In addition to that, if there is, there's also through the HEMA Alliance, there's also a mechanism for reporting harassment or like other greater incident violation, like incidents, which we will also at some point go over together, because I think that is also an important thing. The HEMA Alliance, for people who don't know, is another organization. They provide insurance, which is something else we'll be talking about in the near future, because we need to start kind of insuring these little HEMA meetups. Currently, when we meet up when we meet up in spaces, I don't think we are covered under the Sword Class NYC insurance, so we just have to double check on that. And we might have to look into some temporary, until the space reopens, insurance ways of dealing with insurance. But anyway, that being aside, Human Alliance provides insurance and also services for the human community. A lot of great people doing a lot of great work, doing the best they can, with a lot of like this giant group of people that have a lot of different views about what HEMA is, and they do, I think, a really good job of listening to everyone and acting in their best, following their best moral compasses and getting everything work. And so there's a mechanism there too for reporting things. That's also helpful for things that are like inter-club, or like, let's say we're at an event, member events, and something happens between clubs, and again, accountability, right? Accountability is a big thing, and I want to make sure moving forward that not only are we talking now about having these layers of accountability, but also making sure that we're held accountable for making these layers happen and keeping them active, keeping that something that's always kind of alive, so to speak. We'll be talking with some people, and I want to kind of make sure that that form of public relations is just as important as the public relations of like promotion and that kind of stuff for us. So I just wanted to talk about. I just wanted to mention that a little bit, because I know that a lot of things have been posted around the hemisphere, so to speak, and I just want to make sure that everyone feels safe and included, and that I wanted to also just make sure everyone knew that I'm dedicated to keeping that accountability. So yeah, all right. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? Okay. Cool. All right. If there's no questions, what we'll do real quick is we'll do a quick skimming of Silver. So this Paradox of Defense is his second, I believe at the time, it was not published during his lifetime, because it was something he was writing for years and years and years, and died before it was properly published. I believe it was finished. That's always a good question. So, Chapter 1 The four grounds or principles of that of the true fight at all manners of weapons are these four. First, judgment. The second is distance. The third is time. And the fourth is place. The principles may be first and chief are the following. Because through judgment you keep your distance. Through distance you keep your time. Through time you safely win or gain the place of your adversary. The place being won or gained, you have time. The place being won or gained, you have time. You have time safely either to strike, thrust, ward, close, grip, slip, or go back. In which your time, your enemy is disappointed to hurt you, or to defend himself by reason that he has lost his place. The reason that he has lost his true place is by length of time through the numbering of his feet, to which he is out of necessity driven to that will be aged. All right. So Old English aside, essentially, it's kind of laying out his grounds for or principles he thinks you need to bring to all fencing, and which, and it's something that we kind of talk about in a kind of more roundabout way, usually in KDF. Here, he just straight up goes for it. And I talked about this a lot during our kind of, whenever we're talking about warding, distance and time are directly correlated in fencing. All right, so the four governors are those that follow. The first governor is judgment, which is to know when your adversary can reach you and when not, and when you can do the like to him, and to know by the goodness or badness of his line what he can do and when and how he can perform it. So basically, what they're saying, what Silver is saying here, is that you need to have one of the most important things you can do is understand distance, and you can understand be able to kind of read a person. How are they holding their body, and what can they do from that position? The second governor is measure. Measure is the better you know how to make your space truly defend yourself or to defend your enemy. Again, really important to know distance. The third and fourth governors are a twofold mind. When you press in on your enemy, for as you have a mind to go forward, so must you have that at that instant a mind to fly backwards upon any action that should be offered or done by your adversary. So always be prepared. Don't be committed to just one action. Be prepared to have to change it up to respond to your enemy's movements. Let's see. And I thought, so those are all principles that I've kind of used to form my approach to reading the KDF techniques. And kind of paint. And we're back. Okay. So those are all kind of some principles I've always applied to KDF techniques. So, and I think they inform a lot of how I approach things. Because what I believe those principles and governors are things that are certainly ways that you can avoid mindless practice, right? Because you have to apply these thoughts and you have to apply these kind of concepts to your actions, right? So the next thing I wanted to do, so the next big question that I frequently get is asking about what's with my interpretation of vor nachendes, or ab nach Setzens. And this all kind of comes from, and these all kind of come from the big question, when do I attack? It's a question I get a lot from newer fencers, and then fencers that kind of have gone through enough of techniques and performance that there's always that underlying question, when exactly do I attack? And Silver spells it out for us, and once you hear the definitions, they're going to sound real familiar. Right? So this is actually part of Chapter 2. This is part of the second chapter, Paradoxes of Defense, Part 2. Let all your lyings be such as shall best like yourself, ever considering out of what fight your enemy charges you. Be sure to keep your distance so that neither head, arm, hands, body, nor legs be within reach. So this is the kind of, as you're approaching, make sure to not give anything up past the Zufectum, right? But he must first, in order to reach you, but that he must first of necessity put in his foot or feet, at which time you have the choice of 3 actions by which you endanger him and go free yourself. Now, so what he's saying is, make sure that you're staying out of distance, right? So you are staying in such a way that in order to hit each other, especially your opponent, has to step in with 1 or 2 steps to reach you, right? Preferably 1 step, right? And so what that's doing, by keeping that distance, you are then creating a window for yourself. And then within that little window, that index moment of that distance, index of depending on their action, the first is to strike or thrust at him the instant when he has gained you the place by his coming in. So, now, what they mean by this is that the place here is that you only have to strike, because this person is moving towards you, into your distance, you don't have to step. You can simply strike with your sword or weapon, be it messer or spear or whatnot, because you simply have to use your hands and arms to attack. But because they have to first step to reach you, even if they swing first, it doesn't help, right? So, and we've demonstrated this many times in class where if I'm standing in like a middle hut or overhut, and someone has to step in to strike, your action, the motion of the time of your hand doing that cue is you're going to get there. You're going to be able to strike that person before they're able to come in proper contact with you. Right? So the first is to strike and thrust at him. So this means as that person's entering your distance, immediately strike them, right? Because that means they are distracted because they are doing an action. And I've always taken this as your enemy is distracted because they're doing something, either because they're sitting there and thinking too much about their ward, or thinking about moving in, or they've misjudged distance. And so the minute you have the ability to take advantage of the time of the hand, you take it, you've ansetzen them, you've attacked them in a way before they've been able to attack you. And the second is to ward, and after to strike him or thrust from it, remembering your governance. All right. So the second is maybe they've come in such a way that is intimidating, or a way that makes you feel unsafe. So then you have to ward and then Nachschlag. So you're working in the knock and vor, right? This is where Lekuknya and Yudalev talk about. This is where the indes is where the knock here is now your technique, right? So this also could mean, if you look at it from the Hauptstücke perspective, it is absetzen, right? You've created it's a counterattack in many ways in modern fencing parlance, because you've created safety and then you're attacking them within that. The third is to slip a little back and to strike or thrust after them. So not crescent. So basically, the idea is to protect yourself by removing yourself from danger and then go back in. Let's see. And then so there's a little bit here afterwards. But ever remember that in the first motion of your adversary towards you, that you slide a little back, so to be prepared in due time to perform any of these 3 actions aforesaid, by disappointing him of his true place, whereby you shall safely defend yourself and endanger him. Remember also that it is through fear or policy he strike or thrust, and therewith go back, or not go back. Follow him upon your twofold governor, and so to follow your ward and slip and perform in like manner before yourself and stay safe. Basically, make sure to give yourself proper time, right? Space and time. It's not a whole lot of material, but it's very simple. But again, it's a lifetime of mastery kind of thing. And it makes me sad about the conditions right now. Is it's very hard to practice these things. Um, and because they are really the foundation, they are really the foundation of a lot of what we do. And I think I got to try to figure out some interesting drills for us to do shadow boxing with. But maybe as things get better, we can start doing some of this stuff. But anyway, so that's kind of a little bit of a brief lesson on kind of perspective, like how to think about time and space. So yeah, riffing on kind of what we talked about last week, it's a way to think about time and space in fencing, and then or the measure in fencing, and then also when do we attack, right? So yeah, just to sum it up, strike first. I mean, I'm sorry, Dr. Josh. I should say the measure of the fight, but they are very different in fencing. Whatever physicists and their gigantic. Anyway, uh, does anyone have any questions regarding space and time, or measure or mensur? While I'm waiting for questions, I'll shoot this a little more. See if there's anything else I can mention. There's just some more general rules here that we can talk about, that kind of stuff. Get some other parts of the text that we don't need to go over right now. Mensur. It's just a German word for measure, weight. Mensur. It's also that ridiculous form of fencing. Also mensur is called mensur because it's weighted, considered to be. All fences are considered to have equal weight because they use apple crates like how we use them in production. They'll throw apple crates down to make a mensur. If one fencer is shorter than the other by a significant amount, they'll have people stand on apple crates and then make up for the any arm length distance with different length swords and all that sort of thing, to try to make it as evenly weighted as possible. Let's see. Silver goes on to talk about declaration before general fights. Those are kind of their guards. Shits on the Italians. And then fourth chapter, then it's all about plays, which are fun to play, fun to mess around with, but also a lot of the single-handed plays have basket hooks, so not exactly always recommend things that are recommended for us to do with Messer or one sword for that matter. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess it's going to be kind of short today, unless people have questions, or if there's just something in general you want to talk about. The next half hour is yours. I thought this would be longer, but it was not. My brain is turned into complete liquid. Yeah, I mean, some of the single-handed plays are interesting. I think that we would have to modify some of the guards to make it really work for Messer, simply because he wants you to really get some of these plays. He really wants your hand out there, or at least my reading of it is they want your hand in some kind of weird Vahangen that isn't necessarily safe with only a nagel. Oh, the source of the silver? Yeah, the source of silver is actually, it's just Wichtenauer. I had printed it out, but it's just, I have it printed here. It's just a more nicely formatted, I copied and pasted it into like a document, and and just yeah. But yeah, all this text is from Wichtenauer. Wichtenauer is great because it has a kind of plain English translation version. I will say, if you want to read silver, don't buy any of the printed books right now. I have yet to find one that does the whole translate it into modern English, or some readable, legible, almost modern English. And all of them have mostly been facsimiles of the actual documents, and it's written in Old English printer script, and it makes your brain turn inside out just trying to read it, and you'll have to transcribe it anyway for yourself. And it's not a whole lot. Like I said, it's not a whole lot. It's easy to copy and paste. You know what? It might be in a Google Doc document. I will. I'll share it with y'all because I like. Um, I'm totally fine. I love it when people follow along reading the text. um, so, and I will probably try to work through a bunch of this stuff and see if any of it's worth incorporating kind of into the Gemeinfechtings that we're doing. I've been finding that a lot. There's a big overlay with the Gemeinfechtings and Hutton and a lot of this stuff. Simply because it's the common fencing, man. It's just it's what there is. And also this book too. I know I've recommended this before, but I'm rereading this, and it's quite good. It's a little different than her last book, but this is more about this. This is more about psychology. And the first book's more about physically drilling and trying to. Well, it's good. It has also a lot about psychology, but this is kind of shower thoughts on shower thought. Oh, actually, shower thoughts on these things. So it's actually interesting. I just stumbled upon. I still love printed books. A little pocket of chapters, beginning with the arc of action. No battle plan survives its first contact with the enemy. Some quote right up front. Every confrontation starts somewhere, regardless of context. Obviously, the earlier you notice, the more time you have to play with to read and influence, to play with, to read and to influence your adversary. The earlier you connect, the more options that you have. The earlier you connect, the more options that you have to control the game. If we break it out into a series of phases, they go something like this. You become a target in someone else's mind. The distance closes either by them moving towards you or by you towards them. You notice bad intent, so you adjust your approach, which affirms that you have become the focus of this intent. This phase is non-existent in an ambush. The time/distance between noticing intent and an actual physical danger closes. This phase can be relatively long to not be there at all, depending on context. The edge of physical range is reached. Entry and attack by either party through to the final move. This phase is often very short. The edge of physical range is reached. Exit to safety. Basically, there is before, during, and after. These three phases which need to be managed. Ooh. There is no security on this earth. There is only opportunity. Douglas MacArthur. In terms of tactical thinking, it is very important to note that there are two parts to before. Before you get to the edge of physical range, but are aware you are a target, and at range, but before contact. Okay, so in this case, Maya has taken kind of a concept of out of range and then first distance here. For the first part, neither party is in range. The second part, both technically are, though nothing happens. Physical has happened. There are variables at play during each of the phases, and many bleed over or stay constant throughout. Variables at play before you get to the edge of physical range include culture, religion, etiquette, superstitions, taboos, and tells. Also, where you are, who they are in relation to you, their individual personality, intent, and gait. Remember that these variables are all potential ways to influence the adversary's movements and focus. We want their Maya, I don't know what that is, to be offline and ours to be on point. Okay, so there must be some type of like focus. You want their focus to be offline and ours to be on point. They are trying to control space and time, so it is in our favor. We are trying to control space and time, so it is in our favor. So you hear that, Josh? We're going to control space and time. Some need to amp themselves up to fight. They will have some rhythmic or repetitive action that they do, whether it's gripping and ungripping their hands, wiggling their fingers, licking their lips, jerky moves of the head, touching talisman. Martial artists will often bounce up and down or swing their weapon around in patterns. Criminals may shift their gaze around or do weapons checks. Professionals and experienced people do not. I don't know what you call a professional tactician, but tactically we are interested in what intel we can gain from our adversary and know this. And knowing this, what we can do to influence, so we control the game. See, this is all very interesting because it's talking like, you know, that before time is also, as much like Silver talks about, it's all about sussing out the details of the fight, but also the psychological elements of the fight. And I will show you the entire chapter of the index, or during, yeah, that big. After entry and at physical contact, whether weapon to weapon, or weapon to body, body to body, the variables at play are still personality and emotions, but also habit and training. Emotions like anger, fear, frustration, and arrogance can change the action. Habit and previous training contain artifacts of rhythm, stance, hand positions. It influences whether they kick, try to disarm, or they charge or throw a classic right hand over. Contacting, once you're in it, it's variable and stuff gets weird. We all know this, but you have to train. It's through the training that you get to act. That you always come back to rely upon, right? That index, that mental Rolodex, right? And you know, when we fence, in most situations, we have the opportunity to kind of try to prepare a Rolodex, but that's not always the case. That's why I always try to keep my Rolodex small. Then the after, again, very small. After the finishing strike, but potentially before a total incapacitation, both parties are within range until one safely gets away. The variables here depend on what effect the last strike had. Training, personality, emotions, and habit are all still in play. They are not dead yet. Many will not believe that they have lost until they actually are incapacitated. It is crucial to exit with defensive structure and perhaps an immobilizing strike so they cannot chase you. Yeah, this is set forth as a good example in Talhofer, where the Talhofer Messer material that I teach, again, small Rolodex of things to do. It's all about mastering about 8 to 12 things. But one of them is the finishing strike, and you cut down, and I think it's like a cut down that sends them to God or something like that. So the fight ain't over till it's over. Again, I just think it's very interesting that Silver has very similar timing to KDF, which also all has very similar stuff to what Maya's talking about. Yeah, it's like there's only so many ways to fight fence. Yeah. All right. I've rambled. I'm pretty sure she has read Silver. I think she mentioned Silver in this book, which makes sense. Yeah. All right. So a little bit of time. Um, what do people have any follow up questions or any like even if it's just like thoughts that came like any thoughts or anything that came to mind during my reading, my rambling reading? Side note: I'm hoping to have another Q&A session with Tristan soon, so keep an eye out for that. So in general, if the weather's good and it's below 90 degrees, um, um, are people interested in another? I'll put up a little sign up sheet for signing up for a class on Friday, um, and we'll kind of play it by ear. I'll let everyone know by noon the day of. Noon, yeah, like early afternoon, the day of, if we're going to meet. I still have a lot of people's sticks, um, which I want to work on getting to everybody. And also, I know the order for the carrying socks is in. We're stuck. That's still stuck in like COVID mailing patterns. Um, and also, trying to think. Um, if folks, I'm still working on putting together a auto tune Zettel. So if people are interested in submitting to that, there's still a lot of segments that I need read. It's a side project that I'm trying to make time for. Uh, um, yeah. And also, actually, here's another question uh, uh, for folks. Are there topics in the future that are helpful for me to talk about? And also, are there things that I haven't been covering that you would be either something you've done before or something you're interested in? I'm interested in hearing like some feedback on that stuff, mostly for AMA purposes. I have a pretty solid Mindfecting curriculum and KDF curriculum that we're kind of working through. Again, I'm doing the Mindfectings right now because I think it's important. Foundations are important. Um, I also would like to do a Messer class in the future, just as have not done a whole lot of Messer aside from some kind of private practice. Um, uh, so that is another thing I'd like to kind of kick into gear. And let's see what else. Also, speaking of gear, um, I have, like as I mentioned before, I do have keys to get into the space. So I can, if people, I had mentioned possibly getting in there this week. Um, so if Thursday works for people, I can I can definitely get people into the space on Thursday. A couple of rules there are one person at a time. Um, no use of like the facility. They've locked the bathrooms and no use of the floor or anything clearly or any of that kind of stuff. I have to double check with Rob Sensei to make sure that it's okay for Thursday. But I would like to try to plan for Thursday to help get people in. Rob is usually there on Mondays to let people in. Um, but I can try to set something up for Thursday. Um, cool. Ashanti, I'll set up some times. It'll probably be in the afternoon, depending on how many people need to get in there on Thursday. If like after work hours or afternoon. Mornings are not good for me right now. I have to admit, when I wake up, uh, it's uh, it's not an easy process, and then I am usually working out and practicing in the mornings before it gets too hot. So, but yeah, we're aiming for Thursday. Ashanti will work on times. I just want to double check with Rob to make sure it's okay. But Ashanti, let's see. Rob is usually there on Mondays in the afternoon, late afternoons, early evenings. He teaches a lightsaber class from there. And I know he's expressed during that time people will be able to come in and get stuff. I highly encourage everyone, if you have gear at sword class, to remove it from sword class. I think that it will be easier, A, because you'll be able to clean it, and B, it will make when we all oh, also, Ashanti, side note, I haven't forgotten about the gloves thing. Putting together some thoughts. Um, so in terms of gear at the space, I think it's really a good idea for everyone to take it home and clean it. And also, it'll make, hopefully, knock on wood, when they start allowing gyms to open up again, it'll make it easier to clean that, to sanitize and clean that space. Okay, Lacey, a weekend is fine. We can try to put something together. I'm thinking maybe what we could do is maybe if there's weekends that are good for people, we could do a day where people can get their gear at sword class, and then there's that park not far, Marcus Garvey Park. Maybe we could do like a little messer class, or do like a small class there on a weekend for people who can't do Fridays. I think that's all the announcements. Again, we're going to have more information soon about figuring out like insurance situations and all that kind of thing. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, cool. Yeah. I think it would be really great to have like a class with the gear pickup thing too. Like, just be like a good reason, like come get the stuff and then get to use the stuff. It's good. I've been enjoying I really enjoyed having that in-person class, and I've also been able to do like small fencing groups, a small fencing group, and that's it feels really good mentally and physically, clearly, but also I think psychologically. The little gathering, these safe gatherings are these managed gatherings. I think are really good for everyone's psychological health. At least they haven't for me. At least. I miss everybody. I miss everyone to pieces. I miss fencing and fencing school. I miss cutting. See what else? Oh, Squinting Rabbit wise, Tristan and I have been working on a new series of videos. It's just like tips and tricks for like cutting and just practice stuff. We shot a pilot, and we're kind of going over the format and everything else. And Tristan did a really good seminar, a like 6-point seminar on thrusting mechanics, and part of it will be aired soon. So watch out for that. I'm trying to think. Just want to get more stuff to everybody. Like I said, I'm still looking for work. Production just started yesterday in New York, or just started being open for work yesterday. So I'm still looking for work. So I got to do something with my time. Otherwise, I don't have much more for y'all. Any questions? Final call for questions. Final call. For those who were wondering about the gloves comment, Ashanti makes, in addition to really good jackets, he also makes really good gloves. They are actually the best HEMA gloves I have ever used. They are this kind of the way most HEMA gloves kind of have like the hoof, the Vulcan thing going on. But the way Shanti built his gloves are actually like this. They're are they rigging gloves, like some from like oil or some type of these leather glove casings that are from some type of rigging or some kind of heavy duty um, workman's glove, and they in their armor, they have plates and plates and padding. And what I like about them is that they allow me to line my knuckles up the way on my sword, the way that I would line up my knuckles without if I was cutting with a sharp, or not wearing like armored gloves. And they let me line up my knuckles and also kind of use these fingers in a way, like use the sword fingers in a way that are natural. Because if you look at how a hand, when you do this, how this finger, the middle finger, moves with the hand and these two fingers, like I have to really, really force um, like this finger not to move. So when you have the hooves, you're doing this. See how it's kind of forcing this other motion? But if I do this, yeah, it's much more natural. So it feels really natural to use, to hold, and to like get the sword fingers to do what they're trying to do. So, and he also is going to customize the size to my small HEMA hands, which I very much appreciate. It's one of my biggest gripes in HEMA is all of anything that is my size has to come custom, except for the AP light jacket, which they actually have like an extra small or something like that. Yeah. So you know me, I'm all about customization. I always love everything should be sized for everything, including swords. That's why I love arms and armor swords so much. Um, uh, Price point for the gloves? I'm not sure. That's an Ashanti, a good question for Ashanti. I know they're early on in the phase, though I do believe I will get my gloves from Ashanti before I get, or my second pair of gloves from Ashanti before I get my thought gloves. Um, um, yeah, we can take a mold of my hand and measure my hand or something. But yeah, I just made a thought gloves too. Remember thought gloves? Um, um, I'm also sure they will cost less than the Pro Gauntlet. I'm assuming. I don't want to speak for Ashanti, but I assume they'll cost less than Pro Gauntlet. Yeah. So we got 5 minutes, folks. Also, I apologize. I did not advertise the AMA as much as I should have. I will do better next time to remind folks that this is all going down. Yeah, yeah. Shanti says, I'm hoping to get the gloves around 3 or less. I'm assuming he means around 300 or less, and not $3. Because if they're $3, I would take 10 pairs, please. No, um, yeah, and trying to think. Yeah. Also, if people want to check out, again, I'll plug it again. Longestsemester.com. We're getting a bunch of resources up there. It's just like a little blog that a bunch of the Messer folk have been working on, and people have been contributing articles and also a lot of resources, including access, like just some ideas of like how to get in touch with the Team Alliance, and also some really good resources regarding like concussion stuff. What was some other things we have? Oh, and the other stuff that's up there is kind of for if there are newer students out there, like the order in which to buy gear, which I'll probably be doing a video on soon anyway. Yeah, so check that out. I'll plug that. Um, and with that, unless there's any last minute questions, probably probably wrap it up. So again, this Friday, we'll scout out the weather, scout out the temperature, um, and keep our eye on the COVID data. I know that things are technically in phase 3 or 4 here in New York City, but I always think it's important to keep an eye on what's happening on the data and make our own safe choices regarding our safety. Let's see. Otherwise, yeah, we'll aim for class on Friday. I miss everybody. Stay safe, stay cool, and I'll talk to y'all soon, all right? Goodbye.